And we are live. Good morning, everybody. My name is Heather DeSanto, and I'm the owner of DiSH Events. And I'm here on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. for another What's Your Dish conversation, which is I invite people that I know in my world or I have yet to meet, and I will meet, and I join them to have a What's Your Dish conversation, which is them sharing their who, what, why, where, and how of how they show up in their life, their business, or what I like to call their business of life, because I feel like these days that's what we're all doing. And today I am joined by Shoshana Chaim. I am super, super excited for this conversation because, and I always say excited because I am excited, genuinely. I have to find a new word to use because excited is what I use quite often. But in particular, this case, because Shoshana just has such a plethora of things to talk about. And so I will open the floor to her to introduce herself and get the conversation started. But I'm thrilled to see where all of the juicy directions this can go in, because really the point of doing these conversations is for me to showcase people in my world and get you to know who they are, so that if what they say resonates, you can connect with them and beautiful things happen. And that makes me excited when people connect and good things happen. So with that, I will invite Shoshana to introduce yourself and tell us, what's your dish?
Thanks, Heather. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for what you're doing for other people and having people come on and share their perspectives and kind of inspire them on a Friday morning, so that you have lots of time to think about it on the weekend. So thank you for what you do, and thanks for having me. I live just outside the Toronto area in Ontario, Canada, and it's funny because people are always asking, like, what do you do? What do you do? And really, my main mission in life is to help people improve their quality of life. That's always been something that I have wanted to do, sometimes for better or worse, sometimes at my expense of not having the right boundaries. But I've learned as I've grown to definitely have them. But, I've been working in the health world for over 20 years. And some of those have been little side gigs as I was a teacher. And then when I left teaching, it was full-time, full-time health and wellness. And that means a lot of things, right? There's a lot of pillars in there, right? There's mental health, there's community, there's the way you move, not just exercise, but moving your body. There's the way that we eat. I was a nutritionist a working nutritionist for years. So that had a huge impact on my family and my family story, but also, um, you know, und understanding supplementation and letting go of ego, that we do not already have all the answers, especially if we're not getting the results that we want to get. And that really translates to every industry, every part of our life, right? Not just our health, but our business and our relationships and all of that. So at the end of the day, what I'm really passionate about is helping people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired, who aren't getting the results that they want to be getting with the health practitioners they're using or want to be more natural. So I support health practitioners, people, and their pets with an amazing, unique product line that really rejuvenates our cells so that we could be more resilient and we could be empowered. Our bodies are empowered to heal themselves from just about anything on the cellular level. And I love what I do on so many levels. And I love the goosebumps that I get when the phone rings or I get a text saying, hey, guess what? It's just the best feeling. It's a little
Yeah,
bit
I
about
can.
me.
Yeah, and thank you. And you are so passionate. Since having met you, I've seen the progression, even like the very first time, but also watching through social. And I actually have somebody that I know, not personally, her and I haven't had a conversation about it, but I know just through the socials and whatnot that your product helped her immensely in her life. But I want to ask you, because I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, your personal health journey got you using this product, which is why you're such an advocate for it. So I'd like you to share what you're comfortable sharing about that personal journey.
Of course. And I'll start a little bit further back with my husband's permission, with his journey, because like I said, we've been in the health world for over 20 years. We were personal trainers. We did CPR training courses. So, right, we were always, wanting people to be healthy, happy, living their best lives, which is what we were. I was early 30, I was early 30s. He was later 30s. We had just had kids. We were athletes. We thought we were eating healthy. All of our friends were gaining, the 1, 2, 3 pounds a year, but we weren't. We were doing great. And boom, all of a sudden he's got a pain through his chest. He goes to the hospital. We find out he's got a tumor and heart disease. And I'm told 3 times in 9 months that he might not be here to help us raise our kids. And I'm pregnant with our second. So that's when things changed from, okay, we're health hobbyists to health needs to be our priority, because without health, we have nothing else. Nothing's a silver bullet. And we could think those negative thoughts of anything could happen at any time, which is true. It's absolutely true, but we can't live thinking about that every day. But at the same time, we need to get things in order so that, that if that freak thing doesn't happen, that we're good. So he decided to figure out, like, how am I going to reverse this heart disease? Because that doesn't exist, or at least keep it from getting worse. And the tumor, long story short, we didn't end up operating because it was benign in the end. And this laparoscopic small little surgery that they wanted to do that would just take that little tumor right off his kidney, it was ended up being a huge tumor that was embedded in his kidney. So it would have been a much bigger operation than he had thought. But he discovered a plant-based diet. He went completely plant-based. And within a year, we saw that the tumor had shrunk on its own and the heart disease was completely gone.
Gee.
Right? So just sit with that for a minute. What aren't we being told?
Yeah.
What are we being told? What aren't we being told? We follow because we trust, but do we really know? So that really was the catalyst of us taking our health into our own hands and not just falling back on and trusting what everybody else was doing or what every other doctor was saying, and that there were things out there that could help us beyond what we knew. So we ended up starting a podcast, right? It's 10 years that we've had this podcast. We just went on break a couple of weeks ago to say, you know what, it's been 10 years. We need a break. Let's see what happens. But over 500 episodes, 10 years of podcasting. But within the first couple of months of podcasting, we started being invited to speak on stages across North America. And people were asking us for nutrition help. Athletes were helping, and we're asking Adam for help with their nutrition and their athletics, because he became an Ironman and all of that. And, at the end of the day, we ended up getting nutrition certification, a whole bunch of other certifications. And I left teaching to work in health full time to help people be as resilient as possible. And I wasn't a nutritionist where I'm like, oh, you've got this problem, we have to eat a lot of this food or a lot of that food. I was helping them with lifestyle and watching all those other things melt away, and they were getting great results. It was always really important for me, Heather, to be a strong, independent woman that was able to make a salary that could support my family. So when I left teaching and went out on my own and made $35,000, I had spent $40,000 in softwares and coaching and all the expenses to make that 35. And that really ate away at me a little bit, right? I always had big dreams, and I thought I was going to be a lot more successful, a lot faster, at least financially. And that started to get me down. I had some PTSD happening from what had happened with Adam. And I was staying up really late to do all my copy, all my, my social media posts and my newsletters and all of that. And I was working in my business and taking care of my family all day. And I was getting up really early in the morning to do all the things that entrepreneurs are supposed to do before the sun comes up to be successful. And I was burning out. Depression, anxiety, exhaustion, just I started to realize that like I couldn't write as well, I couldn't read as well, and I just didn't feel right. And I started going to all these health practitioners. I went to acupuncture, Chinese medicine. I went to Reiki, osteopath, naturopath, and nothing was working. So I found other things and other things. I went to 3 different naturopaths in the course of a year. And by the end of that year, I was sleeping 16 hours a day. I was in extreme agony throughout my arms and my shoulders and my hands and the bottom of my feet, especially when I woke up in the morning. I couldn't get my kids to school on time. They were late for school almost every day. I barely worked that year. And if I worked or if I went to an appointment, I would come home exhausted, fall asleep, and not even know if I'd be able to hear the alarm to wake up to go pick up the kids at the end of the day. Couldn't read. A note would come home from school about a field trip, could not process the information. I have to read it 8 times over. And that was my life. And I was like, talk about imposter syndrome. I was helping all these other people get these great results before. I was following my protocols to a T. Why wasn't it working for me? And my issues were just so much deeper. So that's kind of where I was at with my own health 7 years ago, having been in the health industry for over 15 years at the time. It was awful. It's awful. Yeah.
I can feel it through the screen, really, because every time you tell your story, you have to go back to that time, and I'm sure it pops very quickly back in your mind between what happened with Adam and then your health journey. And so I'll let you introduce the product, because I see it over your left shoulder, and I have a couple that you've introduced me to. One in particular, right. The Renew 28.
Oh, you got
and
it.
So it is this product that got you on the other side of all of that, is it not? In addition to, I'm sure, some other things, but
it is. I mean, like the acupuncture, I was in extreme agony that day, extreme agony the next day. I'd have 2 days of like pretty good. I'd be able to get the laundry done, the grocery shopping, right? Spend a little bit more time with the kids. But then by day 4, I was just as bad as I was when I started, right? So I was barely getting these results. And a friend of my husband's from school, her parents were a naturopathic doctor, or well, they just retired. So they were naturopathic doctors here in Toronto. But before they came to Toronto, they were actually MDs in 2 other countries. So they had the best of both worlds. Plus that European MD is a lot different than North America. And she was introducing us to, that blue bottle over my shoulder, because it would be great for our athletes. She said that they'd do better, that they'd recover better. It would be great for our people with autoimmune disease, with hormone imbalance, with all the things that we were doing with nutrition. She said this would complement it. It would help them get their results faster. It would help them get even better results. If there were people who we weren't getting results with, it would help. And she was talking to us, or more my husband, and he was coming home and relaying it to me, but I was so sick I couldn't listen. And then something clicked. It's like, wait, what if this is my answer? Right?
Yeah.
What if this is my answer? So I went and I listened to what it was all about, and I understood very little because my brain was not working at capacity. But what I understood was there was cells in our body there are cells in our body that need to communicate. And without that communication, we cannot have the proper healing going to the right places to create balance, right? Our systems are teeter-tottering all day because of radiation and mold and sprays and stress, and our body's in oxidative stress all day long. And if we do not have enough communication in the body, redox molecules in the body to create that balance, something's going to start getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Now, we make these redox on our own, but every 10 years we make 10% less. But if you've had more trauma in your life, you're on that higher end of the 10% average kind of thing. And as our cells go from these big, beautiful basketballs and become a little bit more dilapidated, the signaling kind of stops. And when you have old medication sitting dormant in the body, old inflammation sitting dormant in the body, viruses that you had when you were younger sitting dormant in the body, all of that is creating like a concrete wall. So go downstairs to your basement and try to call me. It's not going to be as clear as it is when you're standing near the window on the main floor.
Right.
So that's what's happening in the body. And so I believe very much in fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see it with my own mother. We went to Bali, and we went to the monkey forest, and she did not know that she was allergic, that she was completely scared of monkeys until she froze. And she was so scared and needed to get out of there, but her feet wouldn't move. And I was like, oh my God, this is what's happening in my body. My body is so afraid. I am in freeze. Nothing is communicating. I had enough energy to be alive, right? Like, and that was it. So I decided, okay, 100% non-toxic, will not interact with medications. I saw people stand up in front of me who did not have the healthy, perfect lifestyles that I had or anywhere near that, tell me about different areas of their lives that had changed, right? Immune system, inflammatory system, cardiovascular system, all of these things had changed. And I was like, I deserve those results too. My family deserves for me to have those results too. They deserve it. So I decided I was going to try it. I'm like, it's just money at this point. And I'd spent thousands of dollars. All I knew is it could not hurt. It could not hurt. So will it help? I happened to have serendipitously a naturopath appointment the next morning, right? And I said to her, I'm not looking for permission. I already ordered it, and she's like, I know about this stuff. I've taken it before. She can't prescribe it in the naturopathic office because she needs to keep to what's inside of their little pharmacy because she's working for other people. But she's like, this will be great. Take it for 3 months. If you don't get enough results after 3 months, we'll start to layer other things in. This is a cellular process, right? This is not taking a Tylenol, your headache goes away. We're getting to the root cause, right? She took my adrenals. She put in drops to turn my urine red. When the urine turns red, you know where you are on the adrenal scale. And the adrenals are responsible for, cortisol and adrenals are very connected, your ability for your nervous system to regulate, your energy, all of that. She puts in 35 drops and she goes, I don't care if it's 35 or 65, you are so far gone. Like there's no point in wasting any more drops. So she sent me home. The only other thing I changed is that I started taking a licorice tea because my blood pressure was really low. Every time I stood up, I would get dizzy. That's the only other thing I changed. And I went back to her 5 weeks later. And the night before, I said to my husband, when was the last time I asked you to massage my arm? And my feet don't really feel as painful in the morning. They're tight, but there's not like knives going through them. And he's like, you've been giving me some blogs over the last 2 weeks. You've been blogging again. And the kids, I realized that the kids, although they were late some days, they were not as late and they were not late as frequently. And I just realized that I wasn't falling asleep. I wasn't falling asleep at the wheel either, which was a huge one, right? Very dangerous.
Yeah.
And I realized how much things had changed in just 5 weeks. Now, keep in mind, I was a really good weight. I had a really clean lifestyle. I wasn't taking in a ton of extra toxicity throughout the day that my body needed to pull through, right? Everybody's body's different. She did tell me to wait, 90 days before we would add anything else in. But I wasn't healed, but I was healing and I was better and I was a person again. I wasn't sleeping 16 hours anymore. And I went back to her and she put in the drops, and 17 drops later, she said, oh my God, I've never seen somebody go from a 35 to a 17 before in my office. And she was amazed, and it got better and better from there. A couple months later, all of this scarring and discolorations on my face from cystic acne my whole life went away. My hair stopped turning gray because my body was working at its fullest potential. It wasn't trying to pull energy and resources from other areas in the body. And I just saw more and more signs of my body healing over the months, even over the years. I mean, I was on antibiotics sometimes 12 times a year as a kid, right? Like I was always sick with ear infection, strep throat. I was teaching an adult, married, double perforated eardrums, had to take a full week off school, right? Like that's what it did to me. So I ended up starting to work again, starting to, put out the copy, like calling all people who want to be plant-based or are plant-based and, need to do what they need to do. And they were coming to me saying, I'm already doing all the things you teach. I listen to your podcast. I follow all the gurus. I'm not getting enough results. There must be something else out there for me. And I was like, am I really going to tell people about this? I'm like, I'm the plant person. We should be able to heal everything with plants. And my ego was like really crushed that, and this whole like imposter syndrome was crushed that I needed something extra besides plants to fix my problem. And I'm like, well, I'm taking the stuff. You want to take it too? I haven't finished researching yet. I just know it can't hurt you. And we had kids on the spectrum look at their parents in the eyes and talk to them. We had people who had cysts being followed on their lungs. Every 3 months, the states, they do things different. Every 3 months, the cyst was being followed. She went back 4 months later. It was gone. Everything from hemorrhoids to pain in the bottom of people's feet when they ran to mental health to the worst diagnoses you'd want to get, we've seen people improve, have better quality of life, longevity, enjoyment, them be able to go out into the world and bring their superpowers to the world and make the world a better place because they can again. What it's done in my own family, I mean, it's just incredible. So slowly over time, I ended up going from telling people about this 10% of my time and doing what I did before 90% of my time and kind of switching that. Like it took a while. It took a while to own that this is a product. But we need help. We need more aid. We need more of what our body is already producing, but just not producing enough because we were never expected to live in a world with this much toxicity around us and being exposed to the kinds of things that we're being exposed to. There is no, I've learned in business and as a woman and as a mother, it's okay to ask for help. And that translates into the health world too. It's okay to need extra help. But what we don't want is the help that ends up creating more problems later.
Right.
And that a ton of my clients have done so many different procedures, medications, you name it, that now they're living another horror and we have to go and we have to correct and balance that. But that's okay because we do the best that we can do at the time with the information that we have. And when we are open, when our eyes are open and we're willing to receive answers and we're willing to let go of our egos, if you're like me, that we already know everything that we need to know, the right things come into our life at the right time. Yeah. And the right people come into our life at the right time.
Yeah, I believe so much in what you've said. And it's interesting because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately in every aspect, like whether it's all about choices, right? And so I've dabbled in this product, right? You've introduced me to it. I have had experience so I'll ask you to share because the bigger bottle, I have a smaller bottle of the bigger bottle. And just like to be transparent, like where I am on my journey, again, not like I'm not plant-based, things like that. I like to be as healthy as possible. And so what I found was interesting is when I tried the ASEA, so it's ASEA or ASEA, how do you say
ASEA,
it?
ASEA. I'll see you later. Yeah.
I like it. Love it. And it was interesting. And why I'm saying this is, from somebody on my side, right? Somebody could be listening to you and go, yeah, okay, it worked for you. It's not going to work for me. It's all around making that choice to try and see what it looks like on the other side, right? I think that's where you're coming from. It's just, another option, and why not? Because if it doesn't work, okay, but I can show you a billion testimonials of things that did work. And so when I tried it, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but just so that other people know, I'm not overly, like, I wouldn't say myself overly healthy, but I take care of myself and I walk and I do all the things. When I took that, and it was very little amount, it was in a little, like,
Was it this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is
Yeah.
the same that's in the bigger bottle.
It's the same.
Shoulder,
this is just 8 ounces and that's 32. Yeah.
Right. So a very small amount, put it in my mouth, and I had to swish it, or I did swish it before I swallowed it. And immediately it tasted like chlorine. And I was like, what on earth? And of course I asked, and again, I'm going to ask you to share it because you're more knowledgeable about it. But it was one of those moments that it was very clear that something's going on in here, despite my best efforts to keep myself healthy, as what I would say, right?
Right. So there's so much that affects our bodies, right? You know, our genetics, and it's funny because I always want to say I'm a believer that, but when I say I believe something, it means I don't have enough scientific proof to back it up, but it really is a belief. It really is a belief. But like, I factually know that we do not have to be a prisoner to our genetics, right? With proper lifestyle, we will, if everybody in your family has type 2 diabetes, you're not destined to 100% have type 2 diabetes. You might be more likely to have it, but lifestyle plays a huge part in unleashing that and allowing that to come out, right? But, you're also two different people, different stress in life, right? There's stress, there's genetics, there's things that we just can't, like, we have to go outside. We have to breathe in fumes. We don't have to have a smartphone, but most of us do. We go on airplanes, right? We're exposed to things, the car accidents, the death of a loved one, a fight with a friend. All of these traumatic things play a toll on our body, right? Play a toll on our body. Going out in nature, going for walks, eating well, being in a loving relationship, all of those things help to balance that, but it doesn't always stay like this, right? So yes, number one, I would like, okay, so you said a lot of things.
As I normally do.
The second the redox touches your lip, your tongue, your cheek, your finger, it is being absorbed directly into your cells. Your body is not digesting it. Your body's not breaking it down. It's not using its own energy system. It's not pulling out nutrients and having to detox toxicity that comes with it right into your cells, right? That works for everyone. That works for absolutely everyone. What we want from the word work is to feel and see. Right? So live blood analysis. You can look at your blood. If you've never taken a SIA before, you can look at your blood. You could see that maybe your cells are sticky or spiky or clumpy, right? Floating around in your blood. Drink some of this 30 minutes later. Take it again. They're going to be like little jellyfish floating around, more equally spread, not really clumped together as much. It's going to look different, right? Give somebody water. That's not going to happen. Give somebody salt water. That's not going to happen. And I say salt water because the ingredients that are able to make the redox is salt water. We know that our body is 70% salt, 70% water. We know that salt is important within the body. We have that. Our cells are little sacks of salt water. So it's not so far-fetched, right? It's just the makeup of the atoms look different when they're redox versus being salt water. I should probably get a carbon, like a little carbon rock, but carbon, like, what carbon looks like? It's like black and chalky. That's what makes that's what makes a diamond, right?
Right.
It's the
Yes.
heat and the pressure and the time that actually changes the atoms in that black chalky carbon that makes these beautiful, extremely expensive, extremely rare, extremely, um, you know, fabulous diamonds that are flashy and beautiful. Um, so we have to kind of think of it like that. Now, yes, so it's made from salt and water, very little salt in there too, right? Like in half of this, it's like the same amount of sodium as a piece of bread or 4 carrots, right? Like really not a lot. Your olfactory reaction, so your body's taste bud reaction kind of thing to what you're drinking is going to change based on where your body's at, right? And
Mm.
right, so yeah, you might be healthy, but the truth is we're still aging. We're still making 10% of our redox all the time. We still had mono when we were 14, or ear infections when we were 12, or lost a parent when we were early. There's still oxidative stress happening in the body, right? There's still breakdown of our cells, breakdown of our DNA, breakdown of our stem cells, right? We're not perfect. That's why we don't look exactly like we did when we were 20, right? We're doing pretty good, but it's still not like
Yep.
nothing's sitting like it did when we were 20. And that's
Yep.
okay. But it's when it's not okay that it's okay. So drinking one little pouch, I'd say about 1% of people will be like, whoa, I've never slept as good as I have in my life. Or I went to karate class and I was on point. Everybody was like, whoa, what's up with you, right? My back discomfort went away in 5 seconds, right? Um, there's that 1% of people where they say that. But for the most of us, our bodies need to do a lot of work underneath before we could feel and see it on the outside, just like a non-traumatic back injury, let's say, right? So like you have a car accident, fine, you don't have back pain today, you have it tomorrow. Makes sense. But for somebody who wakes up one morning and goes like, "Oh, there's something in my back. I must have slept wrong." And then it's still there the next day and it's still there the next day. It wasn't just a little twitch that did that. It was building up over time, right? You go and you I remember after I had my daughter, I started training for a marathon after my 6-week appointment. And
Of course you did.
I do not recommend that. For a half marathon, I went down to pick something up off the floor, couldn't get up. I got stuck there. Right. So I'm like 30 years old and my back is out. It wasn't from picking that up. It was from that training and the staying in bed and the, pregnancy trauma and not that it was traumatic, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all of that added up to it. We didn't feel that happening over time until we go down and pick that up. So we have to kind of expect the reverse. And the same goes for anything. Like the same went for plant-based eating too. And guys, you don't have to be plant-based to drink the molecules, right? Like they have nothing to do with each other per se.
Yep.
But you know, if you are in business and you're trying to beat the YouTube or the Facebook or the Instagram algorithm, and you start posting 4 times a day or doing what this expert is doing and that expert is doing, if you don't have results by the end of the week, does that mean that if you continue doing it, you're never going to see results?
Hmm.
No.
Yeah.
If you start journaling or writing your gratitude and you really don't feel more positive by the end of the week, does that mean that you should stop? No, it needs to be deeper, right? It needs to
Yeah.
get into that subconscious. It needs to really get that algorithm. You need to be getting people's attention. You need more time. You need more process. The same with health,
Mhm.
right? The same with health. So yeah, it
Yeah.
does, and it tastes to a lot of people like chlorine at the beginning, like a pool, like pool water, and
Yeah.
people like, "Ew,
Yep.
there's no chlorine in it. It is literally your body's reaction. The cleaner it tastes, the healthier, the more optimal your body is working. To me, it tastes like clean, clear water every day, like spring water, like the best in the world. I could be up late the night before, or maybe I don't drink often. So maybe I had a glass of wine or maybe, sorry for the men listening, maybe my cycle is about to come and I will drink it and I'll be like, acetone. Something's going on in my body. And I'll drink a little bit more. And by the time I go drink from the exact same bottle 6 hours later, it tastes like clean, clear water again. It's just my body's reaction in that moment.
So interesting. And so you've gone and we've talked about the water one of it, or like
The
the
liquid.
salted water.
Yeah.
The liquid. Thank you. That's the word I would be looking for. But again, that was a one and done. And again, you said something earlier, which I think is interesting. So again, from a transparency perspective, I tried it. I haven't invested in the however much it is to get it, but I'm going somewhere with this. I can still say that I know that this product works from my experience. So I've tried, so I did get one of those packets, and you're probably going to tell me that it's not expired, but I'm still using it. But I can tell you that I moved it into the squirt bottle that you gave me at the time. And so I squirt it on my face every day. And I still, again, I didn't do a before and after or anything like that. But again, just going to say, I'm turning 50 next week. And yes, I have good genes, but I've been doing that since I think you held that thing at your house at the beginning of the summer. So consistently since the beginning of the summer. And I don't have wrinkles. You had mentioned earlier from an internal perspective, I had really bad acne as a kid. I don't see it nearly as much, like the marks that I did. But what I also want to get into, so that was experiencing the liquid perspective. While I'm not necessarily ingesting it every day, I am on my face. But I did get, so I wanted, I just dropped it on the ground. The Redox Radiance, the dragon fruit lemonade that I had. So I took this to Peru with me. And I can swear by it because, again, and I'm not going to make claims to it, but drinking it, again, it still has the redox in it that I believe, and I believe that's just the way it is, that my drinking it every day over the course of the 4 days of doing the Inca Trail, it did go in and repair and do. And so consecutively, between other things that I do, I know without a doubt that it helped. And then recently, and so Shoshana doesn't even know this, so last weekend, I cut my pinky on with a knife while I was doing the dishes. And previous to owning this, I would have got polysporin and put it on my finger and put a Band-Aid on, and I would have gone on my merry way. But I was like, nope, I'm going to try this today because, and I'll encourage you, we'll talk about Shoshana all the way you can connect with her. She has a video where she went to a grocery store or whatever, pharmacy, wherever, picked a bunch of products, told you the value of what those products were. And at the end of the day, this one could replace every single one of those products at the value of this. And so what I want to say is that night I put, and I don't always remember what Shoshana says to do, but over the course of about an hour, I put it on, I think 3 or 4 times. And I'm not kidding you, by the next morning, and I just still took my Band-Aid because I'm a bit of a baby that way, but I woke up the next morning and it was gone. And I'm like, you can't make that stuff up. And I use this. And so from a testimonial perspective, from somebody, again, that's not necessarily ingesting it every day, there are solutions that you can dip your feet into to try to prove it to yourself. Because I wanted to go back to what you said before about if it doesn't work immediately, a lot of people will say, oh, it's not for me, it doesn't work, I'm going to move on. And it wasn't for me.
Right.
But I can tell you just from using this one alone that I know that everything that you've shared backs this product up in addition to all the others. And so I just thank you for this one. And it's clear, lovely. You use it.
It has no smell, right? It's got no smell. Yeah. It doesn't leave a filmy residue or an oily residue. It won't ruin your clothes if you get it on it. But yeah, so first of all, I'm glad your pinky's better. Yeah. So normally, like if somebody just wants to buy like one bottle or one pouch from me to drink it and see what happens, the truth is I won't take their money. Like I will not give it to them because for that exact reason, like you drink it, nothing really happens, and you're like, oh, okay, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
But the reason you took it is because you were going to spray it, right? Like it was a spray thing that we were doing, not an ingesting thing. But what happens with the gel is the gel is the exact same thing as what's in this bottle. There's a clay and a stabilizer. There's no other active ingredients in it to make it anything different than what's here. So when you see your skin, and what is your skin made out of? Cells, right? Your skin is an organ, right? I know, sorry.
I was like, oh, is that a Jeopardy question? What is? No, I'm just
your skin is made of cells. Your skin is an organ, like your kidney, like your liver. You saw your finger overnight. How long would that have normally taken to?
at least 3-4 days because I would just keep putting the polysporin on it.
Right. So overnight that happened. Imagine that happening to all the cells on the inside of your body. Imagine if you had an adrenal issue and it started to fix those cells and open your endocrine pathways so that your adrenals can work better. Imagine that you had dehydrated cells that should have been killed off clumping together in the, well, not in your body, but clumping together in somebody's body, and poison started to run through it. Imagine your body doing what it did here, fixing and healing to something as grave that can happen in somebody's body, right? That's that's the magic of it. So you mentioned the radiance.
I love
So
it. And it really tastes good too.
It tastes amazing. So just to clarify, it does not have the redox in it. It stimulates a redox system in the body, right? It's stimulating a redox system in the body. And what it's actually is it is not collagen. It's the amino acids that will allow your body to make the peptides and the collagen on its own so much faster than taking in an animal-based collagen. First of all, I don't even want to mention the parts of the animals that are used in the animal-based collagens. Your body needs to break down that collagen. It needs to expel the toxins. It needs to balance the hormones that you're taking in from those animal cells. It needs to break it down into gelatin, break it down into peptides, amino acids, and then it needs to make it into amino acids that humans can actually absorb to create peptides and its own gelatin and its own collagen. So what we're actually doing here is a few things. It's skipping all those beginning steps, giving you those amino acids so your body can create collagen faster so that it can be more effective, and you could use so much less, just that little packet, you could use so much less to create so much more. So that's amazing in itself. For you on the Inca Trail, you're becoming more hydrated. There is, so our cells have little telomeres at the end. Think of it, each cell as having like little shoelace. You know, those little shoelace with the plastic around.
The plastic?
Yeah, the plastic around it. Picture us having that at the end of all of our cells. And as that plastic starts to eat away, right? Have you had that shoe where like the plastic and the shoelace starts to fray, right? You cannot replace your shoelaces in your cells in your body. You cannot replace your telomeres in your body, but you can grow them back with very few specific products that we could take in the world. So we're actually making our cells better, allowing our cells to hydrate more as you're walking and walking and walking and eating away at cartilage in the body and all of that, and not really washing your hair properly, and your body needing to pull all of this energy from your hair, skin, and nails to be able to give you enough energy to do what you need to do out there on the trail. You're actually replenishing all of that at the same time. And it tastes like lemonade, dragon fruit, like, right? Like, So that's why it works so well for you. And that's why I love that for you on the trail. Really light, really easy to carry, but you were getting so much more than you even knew you were getting from it. But yeah, so it kind of gets your body going. And that's what I love. So it was really, really hard for me to say, hey, I've partnered with a company, because I was always used to creating my own tools, my own resources, doing coaching as opposed to selling products, right? But so there's universities all across the world. There are institutions, biotech companies all across the world that are making these redox molecules, salt and water, and they have their processes, right? This company has 7 patents right now and over 1,000 trade secrets to create these redox molecules. They are the only ones in the whole entire world that have been able to stabilize it so it could be shipped and delivered to your home. Anybody else, any other studies going on, people have to live near the campus or live near the company to drive there to take it within 10 minutes of it being made, or it turns back into salt water. So they will never put out anything else that could tarnish their reputation for this, because they are the world's leaders in redox molecules. So when I started to get to know more about the company that they were going to sell to the pharmaceutical company for millions, trillions of dollars, and well, maybe not trillions, but probably billions of dollars. I don't want to exaggerate on that too much, but they said, what's the catch? And they said, well, you have 140 people on the product right now whose lives had been changed, whose some of their lives were supposed to be over, who were finally being able to walk again. And they said, those people have to come off, and we're never giving it to anybody else again. So they were going to get the money, but what they invested into becoming a force for good in the world was going to be taken away. And they said, no way. They said, we're not doing that. And then they went to like big business people and said, here's our product. And they're like, what is this? I don't know what this is. The general population is not going to know what this is. And they figured out the best way to get it out there. All of that really made me overcome my dislike of being a distributor for products, because it's for me, it's not being a distributor of products. It's looking at you and your situation, saying, what do you need for this situation to be your best self, to have a better quality of life? And how can I be a force for good in the world by helping you? And how can that allow you to go out into the world and bring your magic to the people? Yeah, super fun.
Yeah. It is a super way to segue into, because I just noticed the time and I'm like, of course, because as I say to all of my guests before we come on, we prepare for these, but really in the grand scheme of things, I love to just make it very natural and go in the direction that we go. There are so many things that I would love to share with those of you that watch. But I really do feel that it's not meant to be, because the magic that you just talked about and how you love to serve, I think this alone, it will be a good opportunity to bring you back, because I'll just make note of asking people to look over Shoshana's right shoulder, because she's also an author. And she mentioned earlier about her podcast, which is, I'll just invite people to check in with it. It's, I'm assuming, on all of the Spotify's and all the things, but it's called the Plant Trainers Podcast, and Shoshana does it with her husband. And I think didn't you say recently, okay, over 500 episodes, and I think I know you shared and which is another thing that Shoshana does. She's the president of FemCity Canada Virtual. So if anybody who's watching and is interested in joining a community of like-minded, beautiful women that connect, we connect 2 times a month with various things. So Shoshana is just such a breadth of information with ASEA, but also just so many other beautiful things that she does to bring magic to the world, which is at that segue. And so we're going to leave all of the things this way, and this is where the perspective portion of this comes in, where I bring up my tools called Points of View, which explains the dots behind me, and I invite my guests to either tell me whether they would like me to choose a word or a question, and I will show that to you, and we'll we'll see what direction that takes us. So which would you like, a word or a question?
I feel like the word is harder. I'll go with the question.
Okay, and so it's funny, when I first restarted doing these, a lot of people were choosing questions, and then it went into words, and I was like, oh, I love the words. And so, but now that we're back in the questions, and I put them in the wrong way, so I ended up picking the words. So we're just going to switch these ones around, and it's going to be
I feel nervous. Okay, are we ready?
No, I think and now the one that has come up. So what I'm going to frame this one, because I think you kind of answered this question at the beginning just by virtue of your story and being an entrepreneur and whatnot. So I'm going to ask you to answer this question based on your experience, but I'm going to put a little twist on it. And so for anybody that's watching, for you to give advice almost in what abilities can I make use of? So normally what happens in these is there's a process and we get to a question and it makes sense, but like just a question on its own, what's the first thing that comes to your mind in that, whether it's in your world, what you'd love to give advice on about what abilities can I make use of?
So, I mean, I guess the first thing that really comes to mind is following your intuition and keeping your eyes open and not getting stuck in, whether you're an expert or not in an area, not getting stuck in the I already know everything. Like that is so important to me, right? We were already personal trainers. Adam already had a little bit of nutrition background. What if he just said, okay, I've got to just double down on what I'm doing, and wouldn't have researched and wouldn't have said, okay, what do I have to lose? Meat for a year? I mean, we were eating kosher meat. It was not cheap. We were happy to give it up for a year. So, you know, or for me to say, okay, this is just my life, right? Or it's just in my head, or it's just mental health, or I need to go back on antidepressants, which I had tried to go back on too, gave it a good couple of months too. But like, what if we had just closed off to the fact that we already know everything, or gone to that thing that I barely understood any information from other than it couldn't hurt me, and been like, oh, there's not enough research. There's plenty of research. I just didn't have the brain capacity to listen to it or take it in. I just knew it couldn't hurt me. I trusted the family that was introducing it to me, and I went with it. Yeah, trust your intuition, but keep your eyes open to the gifts that the world is trying to give to you.
Yeah. In the same vein, I use that, like the word awareness is something that is so, I'm so aware of awareness right now in my life. The ability to stay focused and pay attention to those things around you. And I truly believe that today, this conversation may be that for some people, is they are searching for answers and haven't found them yet. And there's nothing, again, based on what you've shared and what I've experienced, there's no reason not to try it if you've gone through all of the things and you're still in a position that, so my hope is that we've planted, which is kind of funny, a play out where I've done so many things of play on words with things.
It's right? Funny that you cut your finger doing the dishes.
The dishes, yes, yeah. Like there's so many things, but yeah, I think that's really huge, and I hope that we've planted the seed for some people today that have learned from you. And so I will say, or I'll ask you to say, you've offered. So there's a link for a free consultation that we're going to put into the comments of this, and this will get you connected into you, correct, Shoshana?
Yes, absolutely. There'll be a link where you'll be able to go to my calendar and actually book a time with me for a free consultation. That could look like a health consultation to you. That could look like the 25 questions you wrote down while we were doing this, or mentally wrote down while we were doing this. I'll give you my time for a half an hour. Just write when it says, how do you know me? Or what do we expect? Just write DiSH there, or write Heather's name so that I know where you're coming from. And yeah, let's have a conversation around this, whether it's a little bit more in depth about my story so that it can help you, or whether it's about, some of these products or being a force for good in the world or whatever it is. I'd be happy to connect with people. It can be very lonely on this side of the camera, not interacting with the hearts aren't coming up and,
Yeah. Yes.
but, or the questions aren't coming up. So, I'm happy to talk those things out with you.
Amazing. I appreciate that. And so the last question I'll have with you, I'll do right at the very end. So I'm going to invite you right now, Shoshana. There are multiple ways for people to connect with you. You're on all the socials, you in your naming convention there, you've got your website. But is there a place that you first direct people in case they're not interested yet in reaching out and having that consultation? They're still trying to figure it out. Where would be the best place? Is the website the best place, or is there another place that you'd prefer people to connect?
Instagram might be the best place. So you could search my name, Shoshana Chaim, or Plant Trainers. And we're kind of in this, like I said, 10 years of podcasting. We're kind of on a break. We're seeing, are we going to keep it how it is? Are we going to kind of rebrand the Instagram a little bit? But pay attention to my stories. My stories is probably how you get to know me the most. And I'm the only one that really answers any of the Instagram messages and things like that. My husband doesn't, and we do not have our assistants do that for us. So yeah, so I'm happy to connect with people there.
That's amazing. And obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but you are on LinkedIn as well, because this is a LinkedIn Live. So anybody, it may not, and it's okay. Not all the bells and whistles on LinkedIn. I'm hearing that a lot lately. They're like, you go live on LinkedIn. I'm not linked on this, so I can't do it. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I'm definitely there. If a few days have gone by and you see I haven't opened, try to find me on Instagram or come back or send me an email or something like that. I'm trying to do it more. It is a little bit more of a fun platform now than it used to be.
Yeah. It's like anything else with entrepreneurialism, right? It's all the things, like you've got to do this and this and this. And then it really, at the end of the day, all of us just want to help our clients. So all of the other stuff is superlative if you're just spending, like, I think this is where we're at right now, is that a lot of people are now back full-time in their businesses and really busy, so that the other stuff falls to the wayside. So anyways, it is.
And the other thing is, I like to do that stuff myself. And I also really value my own health and the time with my family and the time to take care of myself too. So we all have the same time in a day, but we all have different values and goals and need a little bit more. And when you've already been in a situation where your health has been has brought you to your lowest, you never want to go there again, but your body has that muscle memory too. So sometimes you have to work a little bit harder to keep yourself out of that gutter.
Yeah. Wow. We could talk forever. So the very last question I'll have for you is, what is your favorite dish? And I'm very curious, because you're plant-based, if you've got a good one.
So it's funny because I don't really do favorites.
Oh,
for better or worse, it has something to do with my life map. But
it's a whole other topic, I'm sure.
It's really easy around my house. But right now, I am loving Thai green curry with vegetables and tofu. It does not get better than that. Yeah.
Oh, that's yummy. And so now you've gone on tofu, which is a whole other thing of how it can take on the flavors. But I think it's this meat that's not meat that can take on the same types of flavors as meat and whatnot. And so
not really the same texture, unfortunately, but the same flavors, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, of course, we've gone very long and but full of juicy details. So I just want to thank you, Shoshana, for joining me today and sharing your wisdom. And once I hit 500 episodes, we'll come back and then we'll do another one, because I'm sure you'll have 5 books out by then and you'll be doing other wonderful things. So again, thank you so very much. You are a lovely, lovely woman with an abundance of knowledge. And I really do hope that this conversation gets in the right hands for people to think about an alternative that I'm guessing that they may not have ever heard of before, because it certainly was something that I had never heard of prior to meeting you. So thank you so very much. I appreciate you. And for anybody that's watched this, and if you're interested in being a guest on What's Your Dish, I would love to have you. Please reach out to me at heather@dishevents.ca, and we'll get connected. I'm booking into 2025 now, which I feel very grateful for. And so thank you again, Shoshana. I appreciate you so much, and wishing you and everybody else a beautiful Friday and an awesome weekend.
Thank you for having me, and happy anniversary again.